Many people rank Sergio Perez and George Russell as two of the best midfield drivers on the grid. But that is not a true representation of their driving skills. Both are exceptionally talented drivers, and you wouldn't put it past them to challenge for world titles someday. But do they really have what it takes to go all the way? Let's find out. We'll start with the first with Red Bull's Sergio Perez. The Mexican has had a very interesting journey, which has seen him move from riding karts on the streets of Mexico to racing for the best team in Formula One. It's simply remarkable. Checo, as he's sometimes called, found his way into F1 in 2011. He was a promising talent who had just signed into Ferrari's junior academy. The Prancing Horse team decided it was best for him to start out first with their second team, Sauber. He announced himself in style with a P7 finish at the Australian Grand Prix. That impressive first outing was followed by 3 podium finishes that season. As he continued to deliver brilliant performances week in, week out, it was inevitable that one of the top teams would come calling for his signature. And when they inevitably did, Perez didn't hesitate to answer the phone. In 2013, he moved to McLaren, but things didn't work out as he would have wanted. Perez's frantic partnership with 2009 champion Jenson Button didn't help matters as well, and by mid-season, the team's officials decided that his time at McLaren was over. It was a big disappointment for the promising driver, who would have hoped to establish himself as one of the biggest drivers in the sport. But it didn't happen for him at the time. Eventually, he had to settle for a less fancied opportunity with a smaller team, and the team was Force India. Despite the team's low rating, Sergio Perez pulled off a string of impressive performances. However, trouble came in 2018 when team owner Vijay Mallya came under investigation for financial crimes in his home country. His assets were seized by the government and funds were hard to come by for Force India. This left the team on the brink of extinction. But thankfully, Perez stepped in to ensure the team was sold to a new buyer. Canadian businessman Lawrence Stroll emerged as the new owner and rebranded the team as Racing Point. Perez got the credit he deserves for saving the team, but just when things began to look stable again, his position at Racing Point came under threat. Rumours flew around for months and eventually they turned out to be true. Sergio Perez was going to be replaced by 4-time world champion Sebastian Vettel. With his Formula One future hanging in the air, Perez kept a cool head and continued to deliver the goods race after race. And in the penultimate race at the end of the season, the Mexican produced the best drive of his career yet, as he worked his way through the field all the way from the back to finish in first position at the Sauber Grand Prix. I hope I'm not dreaming here because I dreamed so many years of being in this moment, Perez said at the top of the podium. He racked up a career-high 125 points to finish 4th in the driver standings in a season that was cut short by coronavirus. It was unimaginable to think that a driver of his quality and expertise was on his way out of the sport in just a few weeks after claiming his first race win. However, there was one last twist in the offering for the Mexican, and it would be the greatest of his career yet. Out of nowhere, Red Bull announced they had signed Perez to partner Max Verstappen for the 2021 season. It was the biggest moment he had always hoped for, and it arrived just when it looked like his career in Formula One was over. However, there was more work to be done. His new deal with Red Bull brought him closer to the spotlight, meaning he couldn't afford to slip up. Also, he needed to prove Racing Point wrong for letting him go, and he did just that. In the 2021 season, Perez racked up 190 points to finish 4th behind Max Verstappen, Lewis Hamilton and Valtteri Bottas. Red Bull sadly didn't win the Constructors' Championship, but Perez's teammate Verstappen claimed the world title. Fast forward to this season, the Mexican has continued with his rich vein of form and is currently ranked 3rd in the Drivers' Championship behind Verstappen and Charles Leclerc. His good performance this season hasn't been a surprise. Sergio Perez has always been in and around the point zone in most races, and you can see that he has the right mentality and quality to become an F1 champion. Now, let's move on to the next hidden champion on our list. In the early period of his career, George Russell won multiple karting championships before upgrading to the British Formula 4 Championship in 2014. Sadly, he missed out on the Formula 3 European Championship with second and third place finishes. At the time, his dream of racing in Formula 1 looked unrealistic, and the Englishman was on the look for other options. At the start of 2016, I was quite sure that my Formula 1 dream was over, Russell recounts. I had no links with F1 teams, and I was setting my sights on DTM, and then suddenly everything changes. Fate somehow paired him with High-Tech GP for the 2016 Formula 3 season, and luckily the team ran the Mercedes engine, and eventually he received the call that would put his racing career on track. They phoned me up one day to do simulator work in Brackley, Russell said. I did 2 days in a simulator as a bit of an assessment, and things snowballed from there. At the end of the season, they told me I'd immediately be part of their young driver program, and they'd be putting me in GP3 with Art team. The skilled racer from Norfolk performed beyond expectations, and by the end of 2017, he had won the GP3 series and was already driving Formula 1 cars for test races. Next up, he saw off a strong lineup of drivers, including McLaren's Lando Norris, to clinch the F2 championship. But with Hamilton and Bottas racing for Mercedes, there was simply no chance for the youngster to make the big step up to the Silver Arrows. So he joined the Williams team instead. He went the whole season without winning a point, thanks to the inefficiency of the car. But his prospects were never in doubt, as he was constantly outracing his teammate Robert Kubica. In Nicholas Latifi, he got a new partner in the next season, but he continued to dominate. However, ahead of the Sakir Grand Prix, a strange turn of events saw Lewis Hamilton test positive for coronavirus. Reserve driver Stoffel van Dorn was in line to replace the 7-time world champion, but Mercedes decided otherwise and instead passed on the opportunity to George Russell. The British racer blazed through qualifying to finish second behind Valtteri Bottas. On Sunday, Russell stunned Bottas to go into the lead, and it looked very much like his first points, podium finish and Grand Prix victory would all arrive at the same time. However, an error during a pit stop and a bad tyre saw him relinquish his top spot, paving the way for Sergio Perez to complete a remarkable win. Nonetheless, George Russell had shown enough to convince his fans and critics that he could do it on the big stage. Stunned by the performance, Mercedes team boss Toto Wolff described George Russell as a star and predicted that the disappointment he suffered was only the starting point of what would be a fairy tale career. Well, he wasn't mincing words at all. Russell returned to Williams and dished out some more impressive driving. As soon as it was confirmed that Valtteri Bottas was leaving, the Mercedes team wasted no time in announcing George Russell as his replacement ahead of the 2022 season. And so far, he has justified that decision. The type of performance Russell has put in at Mercedes this season is unimaginable. He started like a house on fire, claiming points after points in the first couple of races, despite the issues that Mercedes have with the car. Currently, he's fourth in the Drivers' Championship. To be in and around these positions at this stage of the season is truly remarkable. Much like George Russell, Sergio Perez is doing everything right at Red Bull this season and has already earned a contract extension with the team until 2024. With the quality and consistency we've seen from Perez and Russell this season, there's no doubt that if the opportunity presents itself, one or both of them could go on to become world champions someday.